I've had the Sony ZVe10 since it came out in 2021, and I've used it to shoot commercials, films, and more. When you first pull it out of the box, the footage you start shooting may not quite look good enough to be in a Hollywood movie. But believe it or not, there's just one simple change that you can make to transform your footage from looking like this into looking like this. And it doesn't even have anything to do with the ZVe10. If you've been following the channel at all, you'll know that I put out a short film 2 weeks ago that I shot on the Sony ZVe10. The goal of the film was to prove that you don't need tens of thousands of dollars of equipment or years spent in film school to make incredible films. And looking at the footage from my story, I think I accomplished that goal. But here's the thing, the Sony ZVe10 isn't the reason that this film looks incredible. Some great lenses definitely helped, and I made a video last week all about the affordable lenses that I used for shooting my story, but what really made this film look like $1 million was the lighting. Here's those two shots that I just showed you a minute ago. The only thing we changed in between recording these two shots was the lighting. In the shot on the left, you can see that it's just natural, normal lights in the room that were turned on, but for the second shot, I turned all the lights in the room off and lit it using just a couple of relatively inexpensive filmmaking lights that altogether cost about the same as the Sony ZVe10 itself. So after turning all of the lights in the room off, the first thing we did was bring in the Godox TL120 to key our talent, Trick, from screen left. The idea behind placing this light where we did was to mimic the point lights in the ceiling of the location. When you're lighting your scenes, you really want to make sure that you do everything you can to make your light feel motivated, meaning that even though you're just setting up a light to light your subject, you really want to put it somewhere that it would actually make sense for the light to be coming from in the room. Take a look at this shot I just recorded of me looking out a window, for example. Doesn't it look weird that there's more light hitting my face from the opposite side of the window? Look how much more natural things look if the light is coming from the window itself. Now, this example is obviously pretty extreme since I'm standing right next to the window, so let's push off the wall a little bit. Again, here's the unmotivated light coming in from the opposite side of the window, and here's the shot where the light is being motivated by the window. Here we're just taking the light that's naturally in the room and manipulating it to look more cinematic. And if we bring in a lamp on the other side of me along with a warmer light, you can see how great this shot is starting to look. Essentially, this is what we're doing with the scene in my story. So we've got the TL120 motivated by the point lights in the ceiling, but what's next? Next, we're actually going to add a little bit of light to the background. So I've got a Neewer 660 raised way up on a C-stand positioned off-screen right. My thinking with this light is that there could be a skylight over there that you just never see on camera with some moonlight coming in. So I set the light to the coolest color temperature possible to make it look more like moonlight so that we could have some contrasting colors in between the warmer TL120 and the cooler 660, and just to raise the exposure of the background a little bit since it was looking pretty dark. For the next light, we're going to follow that same line of thinking and add a really cold hair light off Trick's shoulder using the Godox TL30. This is basically a mini version of the TL120, and it really helps her pop off the background. And it helps the moonlight feel a little more natural in the scene. And in reality, again, there's no windows in the room, but you never see this half of the room in the film, so reasonably, there could be a window over there with moonlight coming in, adding some ambience. As long as we stick to this for the entire scene and always have this cooler light coming in from that angle, it's actually a pretty convincing effect, and it looks pretty natural. Next, again, to add some color contrast against all of the blue light that we've just introduced and raise the exposure of the background just a hair more, I'm going to turn on this aperture MC that I've got positioned to look like an oven light. The real oven light had this weird green tint to it, which is why I opted for using the MC instead. In retrospect, I kind of wish I'd turned the intensity of this light down just a smidge, but it's not really that big of a deal. And finally, to bring the exposure for the whole scene up, I'm just blasting an aperture 100D against the wall over here that you never see in the film. Again, making it look like there's some ambient moonlight coming in through the big window over here. The aperture 100D is also set to a cool 5600 Kelvin, which again, just emphasizes the contrast between the warmer TL120 and MC against the cooler light sources. And this is pretty much the lighting setup we used to shoot the entire film. For various shots, we definitely tweaked a little bit of the positioning and intensity of some of the lights so that each individual shot looked good, but overall the principles stayed relatively same throughout the shoot. Have you learned anything while watching this video? Hopefully, if you're still watching, the answer is yes, which is awesome. Our mission here at Visionary Studios is to do everything we can to give you the knowledge and resources that you need to release the life and vision inside of you through making incredible films. And that's why we made this video, which is actually a content module in a course we offer teaching you how to shoot cinematic films using the Sony ZVe10. We call it the Sony ZVe10 Cinema course, and in that course, we actually take you on set to break down some of the other lighting setups in the film. And if you can't quite afford to sink an extra $1,000 into even the more affordable filmmaking lights like we use to shoot the film, that's totally okay too. In the course, we break down not only everything we use to shoot my story, we also show you how you can get nearly an identical look using just some lights from around your house. At the end of the day, a light's a light after all, and if you just have some practical instruction on the principles behind cinematic lighting, you can make some really beautiful films just using the lights from around your house and light bulbs from Walmart. If you're interested in learning more about the Sony ZVe10 Cinema course and all of the rest of the incredible content that we packed into there besides lighting, ranging from camera settings, the stabilization methods, budget sound production, and more, just hit the first link in the description below. I can't wait to see you in the course.